It took 3 weeks and 6 days for it to arrive, and now it is here. The new 2020 13-inch MacBook Pro M1. Should you upgrade to this if you already have a relatively newer MacBook Pro? We're gonna talk about that today. Okay, I have been using for the last 3 years a 2017 15-inch MacBook Pro Core i7 with 256 gig internal storage and 16 gig of RAM. Just recently, I have picked up the 2020 MacBook Pro 13-inch, 1 terabyte storage and 16 gig of RAM with the M1 chip in it. We're gonna talk about the reasons why I chose to upgrade after having just a 3-year-old computer. My first reason was I needed a tax write-off this year, and no better way to do it than buying new toys, right? So I ordered 2 of these MacBook Pros, one for me, one for my wife who helps me with the business. I needed to order one and I needed to have it done by the end of the year for tax write-off purposes. Second reason I chose to jump into this from this was because I like the smaller form factor of the 13-inch. It might not seem like a large jump. There's the 15-inch and there is the 13-inch. To me, that's a huge difference. That and weight make it well worth upgrading to. I've had 3 13-inch MacBooks over the years. This is the only 15-inch I've ever had. And I gotta say, over the last 3 years, this has been difficult to take. This has been difficult to fit in a backpack, and it's been difficult to use on an airplane. It's been difficult to use in the car. I just haven't loved the bigger form factor. And I was pretty excited to switch back to a 13-inch model for that reason. This is 3 pounds. I don't know exactly what my 15-inch is, but I think it's like 1.5 pounds more. This is about the size, pretty close to the size of a Mac or of an iPad Pro. Both in dimensions and in weight, I would say it's pretty dang close. And as we all know, iPads are so easy to transport. So I felt like size was definitely a big factor for me. Another big reason why I upgraded was battery life. The supposed battery life when I ordered this, of course I didn't know except from what I saw on the internet, was 20 hours of video playback. Of course, editing is gonna be shorter than that, but nonetheless, it was gonna be a lot more than my 15-inch Pro. If I edit on my 15-inch for 1.5 hours on Final Cut, it will kill a battery in just 1.5 hours. So far, the battery life has been drastically better, which is so nice when you're in places like the car or sitting in an airport not by an outlet where you need battery life to edit longer than 1.5 hours, which you don't get too far with 1.5 hours worth of time. So those were some of the reasons why I upgraded. Had it not been for needing a tax write-off, I probably still would have waited till next year because my 2017 MacBook, it still obviously does just fine. But I probably would have waited if I didn't need to jump right into it right now. But for me, it was definitely worth upgrading from a somewhat newer Mac to a brand new Mac. When it comes to performance, yes, this does cut through footage better with the M1 chip than my Intel-based 15-inch. My 15-inch struggles big time with H.265 codecs where my M1 does not. This M1 will scrub through it and play back H.265 like footage from my Mavic 2 Pro. It will scrub through it and play it back with ease like it's H.264 video all day long. I mean, it does not struggle at all with that. My 15-inch has always had a hard time with drone footage, which is a big problem for me because I do shoot a lot of real estate and half my clients are real estate clients, and so I do a tremendous amount of drone footage. It is an absolute nightmare to try to edit video when half the time is spent with the video just stuttering because it can't cut through it very well. This has not had a problem thus far. So on the performance end of things, once again, it was worth the upgrade. Now, as far as cost of these 2 machines, the 13-inch MacBooks are generally always cheaper than their 15 or 16-inch counterparts, and this is no different. However, I felt like with the M1 chip, I feel like I've got a lot more for my money with the 13 than I did when I got this 15 3 years ago. So the specs on the 13-inch, I have got 16 gig of RAM, which was the biggest you could get with the M1. I got 1 terabyte of internal storage. The biggest you could get was 2 terabytes of internal storage. The only reason I went with 1 instead of the 2 terabytes on this one is because I have a 4 terabyte external hard drive that all my Final Cut libraries, cache, backups, everything saves to that external SSD. So if they would have offered a 4 terabyte option on this, I would have spent the money for it. However, they did not offer more than 2 terabytes. So I knew that even with 2 terabytes, I was still going to need to use my external SSD. So I thought there wasn't much sense in going to the full 2 terabytes. This one ran me just under 2,000, just a little over 2,000 with tax. My 15-inch, 3 years ago, if I remember right, cost me somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,600 bucks. That's with 256 gig of internal, 16 gig of RAM, and the Core i7 processor in it. I'm not gonna do the bench tests and the processor speed tests and all that stuff that some guys do. To me, that doesn't mean a whole lot. What means a lot to me is how in the real life they perform. I have yet to find any video that this drops frames with, that it can't handle. Granted, I haven't edited a big project with a lot of color grading or transitions in it, but it seems like everything kind of struggles with that. So I can't speak for the longer projects, but for any YouTube stuff I've done, this has worked so good. And I've been editing client work on this. Could not be happier that I made the switch. And what's also nice, moving from a relatively newer MacBook into a brand new one, is my older one still has some value to it. So I have no questions that I can sell this online for in excess of $1,000, which ultimately pays for half of this one. So I will be putting that up for sale here shortly once I get it cleared off and get all the stuff transferred onto this one. And like I said, it'll in a way pay for half of this laptop, which makes it even that much better of a value. Another nice thing, this versus my 2017 Intel-based machine, is heat. The M1 chip, just like your iPads, it rarely heats up, and when it does heat up, it's more of just like a warm. It's not even like a hot. This 15-inch will get so damn hot when I have it on my lap, like when I'm in the car, my wife's driving, and I've got this sitting on my lap. This will get so hot cutting through video that no shit, it will like burn my legs. It will get that hot. And that's always driven me crazy, because then I start worrying, is it damaging my computer? Should I shut it down? Should I give it a break for a little while? And that is not productive or efficient whatsoever. This does not do that. This will get a little warm, but that's at best, it'll get a little bit warm. It will not get hot like this one does. And I have sat there and cut drone footage for 2 hours on this, and it still gets nothing more than slightly warm to touch right around the back and the bottom of it. It's so much better of an experience than using the Intel-based machine. So for those of you out there looking to possibly upgrade from that newer one, my decision is do it. It has been a great choice for me. Like I said, I'm a week in. Along with this, I had ordered the Magic Mouse. I used this Logitech mouse. It comes with like the little USB thing that plugs in to read the signal on it. This thing is a piece of crap. It did not work. It was terrible. I mean, it was cheap. I decided to spend the money on one of these because it's built for a Mac and you don't have to use anything to plug it in. The computer automatically picks it up. They're a little expensive. They're about 100 bucks, but use with this, since the trackpad is a little smaller than it is on my 15-inch, I felt like this was the way to go. And all these years I've been editing using a trackpad, and boy, I've been missing out, because this is the way to go. So should you upgrade if you already have a newer Mac? I guess it depends on how new, because if you just spec'd out a 16-inch Pro last year and you're into it $6,000, no, it's probably not worth it. But if you have a several-year-old or a couple-year-old, pretty basic MacBook Pro or MacBook Air, definitely worth the upgrade. So guys, if this video helped you make a decision at all, give it a like, consider giving me a subscribe. I cover several different topics on my channel here. If you have any questions about this M1, put it in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer any questions that come in, and I have truly fallen in love with this machine. I appreciate you watching my video. Go to my channel, see if there's anything else of interest to you there. And this is it until the next video. We'll see you.